Welcome to the Income Outcome Show, a podcast publication part of the Pharmacy Podcast Network. The Income Outcome Show is dedicated to pharmacists, pharmacy technicians, pharmacy students, and all pharmacy professionals interested in maximizing their income and providing insights into living a financially free lifestyle.
All matters discussed during this podcast are for informational purposes only. Opinions expressed herein are solely those of Waypoint Strategic Advisors, LLC, and our editorial staff. Material presented is believed to be from reliable sources. However, we make no representations as to its accuracy or completeness. All information and ideas should be discussed in detail with your individual advisor prior to implementation. The presence of this podcast shall in no way be construed or interpreted as a solicitation to sell or offer to sell advisory services to anyone. Waypoint Strategic Advisors, LLC is not affiliated with or endorsed by any government agency and are not engaged in the practice of law. Content should not be viewed as an offer to buy or sell any of the securities mentioned or as legal or tax advice. You should always consult an attorney or tax professional regarding your specific legal or tax situation.
And now here are your hosts of the Income Outcome Show, Ben Coakley with Waypoint Strategic Advisors and Joe Castleman with Pharmacist Financial.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Income Outcome Show on the Pharmacy Podcast Network. I am your host, Ben Coakley, and I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Joe. How are you?
Very good, Ben. Thank you very much.
Awesome, brother. Awesome, man. How's the weather there in Texas today, man?
It's pretty nice today. I can't complain.
Awesome. Well, it's springtime, Joe. And you know what springtime means, man? It means new beginnings. And that's the title of our podcast today, New Beginnings. And Joe, have I ever explained to you why we call our company Waypoint? Have you heard that story?
Yeah, it's been a while. Why don't you refresh my memory?
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you giving me this opportunity and this soapbox moment, Joe. You know me, I can get on a soapbox.
Yes, you can. All
right. So company Waypoint, when we were founding our company, and we actually merged with another organization and founded the Waypoint company, the Waypoint family of companies. And what a waypoint is back in the day when these ships were crossing the ocean, it's a nautical term, they would chart a course. And they would basically say, our goal is to get to the new world in 4 months. And they would go, and each day they would chart a course. And then they would stop and reflect where they are, and they would make adjustments to their course to try to get them there as close to their time frame as possible. And every time they had to stop, reset, and Joe, back then I don't think they had radar. I'm not sure. Did they have radar in the 1600s?
No, they probably had some kind of bird system or something.
Yeah, they probably had some kind of carrier pigeon system, something like that. Most likely no radar on their boats, right? No. So there's a good chance if they were going through like the Atlantic, they might have hit a hurricane or something. So they might have got pushed way off course sometimes. When you get pushed off course, you need to sit back and say, I'm at a waypoint in my life. Let me reset, chart a new course towards where I'm trying to go. That is a waypoint. That is why we chose our name. If you do any work with us, you will understand that our planning programs are all designed to work really hard, find a waypoint, reset, chart a new course, and if you do that consistently, Joe, I think you get closer to your goal. Does that make sense?
It does. So let me ask you this, Ben. Are waypoints only when something catastrophic happens, like you said, hurricane, or is it just making adjustments as we go along?
Joe, what could be a bigger waypoint in your life than hitting the Powerball?
Oh, nice.
You know what I'm saying? You're going to need some of the things you were working on, maybe instantly within grasp. Well, guess what? You may change. You have to change your course. You may have to find new things. And I read a story about a guy in West Virginia hit the Powerball. The guy owned 3 businesses, was independently wealthy,
and he hit the Powerball. Wow!
He gave 90% of his Powerball winnings away to charity.
Wow!
Now, that's a significant waypoint in his life. He was able to impact so many lives. So it's not just catastrophic things. It's not things. We're going to talk about some really cool things today. One of them is not a pleasant topic to talk about, but it's got to be addressed. And the other two, I think, are really significant positive waypoints in your life. So Joe, let's talk a little bit of that. I'm going to give everybody an overview here, if you don't mind, what we're going to talk about today, the 3 topics. And then we can dive into them. And then we're going to share a couple personal stories with you guys, and ladies and guys out there, because I think once you understand that this is part of who we are and why we do what we do and why we've set all the things up and solutions that we have up, because we have gone through some significant waypoints in our life. So, Joe, the first topic we're going to talk about is going through the big D. And I don't mean Dallas, brother. We're talking about divorce.
Yes.
This is a pretty common thing now in our society, and it can be very traumatic, but it's a significant waypoint.
Yes.
The other one we're going to talk about is graduation. Joe, have you seen any graduation parties here recently?
They're coming up. They're happening soon. It's that month of May. It's time.
Yeah, Clemson University, go Tigers. My alma mater just had their graduation ceremonies last week. So again, absolutely, there are people out there on this podcast who are graduating and moving on to the next chapter in their life. That's a pretty significant waypoint. And then finally, there are those of you who are listening who are saying, you know what, I'm ready for life after pharmacy. That's a pretty big waypoint. And if you're to the point where you can make that leap, Joe, isn't that why we work?
It is.
That's why we put the blood, sweat, toil, tears, whatever. I think there's a Winston Churchill quote about something like that.
Yeah.
I think that's why we put the effort in. So,
and what's interesting, Ben, let me interject here. That out of those three, the first one is usually unexpected waypoint, and the other two you can anticipate to some degree. So when we dive into those, it'd be interesting to talk about how the waypoints are different when it's something maybe more catastrophic or not so pleasant versus something that's exciting.
Yeah, and what's amazing, Joe, is you're right. Waypoints can be unexpected or completely anticipated.
Yep. And
again, we have this saying, hope for the best, prepare for the worst.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what we're talking about. And so Joe, let's dive into divorce. I know personally, I've had 5 or 6 clients of mine who have recently gone through some pretty bad divorces. And it's interesting looking and watching them on the rebound side. Joe, tell me any thoughts on kind of what you need to think about after a divorce and kind of a new beginning from that situation.
Well, let me ask you this: when you said bad divorce, are you talking financially, or are you just talking about emotionally? Because I think when it comes to money, I think that's one of the biggest challenges is that when I see people go through divorce, in the early aftermath, they may have emotions or feelings that sometimes cause them to think irrationally when it comes to money. And maybe after things settle, the dust settles, things are clear, and both parties can move on, then you make another waypoint where you actually start thinking more clearly and say, hey, now I'm on my own with money.
Yeah, Joe. I think I'm talking about both.
Yeah.
Mostly in financial. We just did the presentation for a group in this industry, and we talked about the emotions tied to money.
Yeah.
And I think what we find out is that when you're in the heat of the moment and things are happening, maybe you don't make the best financial decisions.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I advised my clients to do is, hey, let's don't make any major finance. Let's wait 6 months.
Just wait. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that.
Let's let the dust settle. Let's let the raw emotion kind of run its course before. And you have to understand, really, everybody out there, if you've gone through that situation, you are very vulnerable. You're very vulnerable. There are people who will come in and use the emotion that you're going through to get you to do something that may not be in your best interest.
Yes.
And Joe, I had a lady sell her business one time, and she called, and that's a pretty significant waypoint. Sold it for multiple millions of dollars. And I told her, I said, do me a favor. Don't do anything. Unplug, decompress. You've been doing this for 40 years for 6 months.
Yeah.
And what I had forecasted actually came true. People were coming out of the woodwork to try to sell her stuff. They knew she'd had money now. They were trying to get her to move money and do stuff. And I was like, just take your time, take a breath. Don't do it because it's burning a hole in your pocket.
Yes.
And she called me maybe 6 months after the 6 month period ended. And she said, Ben, that was the best financial advice that anybody's ever given me, because I know that the emotions, and she sold it because her husband was sick. She didn't want to sell it. She loved being a pharmacy owner. But the emotion of all the changes in her life at that point could have really made her not made her, but really led to some bad decisions.
Yeah. And Ben, I think the emotion too, on the divorce side, I think waiting 6 months or just this amount of time really helps with, it's not so much whether it's a bad divorce per se, but I think that post-divorce, I think when it comes to money and financial future, I think initially there's a period of kind of distraught and just kind of like, well, what's the point? I don't care. It's not about money. But then after a while, and I think this is true with most people, unless they're just bitter forever, is they reach a point and they say, you know what, this is a new beginning. They come to peace with what happened. They can appreciate the past, and they say, you know what, this is a new beginning. I have a new perspective. I have money. What do I want to do with my financial future moving forward? Yeah,
one of my clients called me and said, I'm getting remarried.
Yep.
How about that, huh? I was like, that's awesome, man.
How soon was that, though? Not too soon, hopefully.
Well, the divorce happened middle of last year, and he's getting married in June of this year. And I thought that was, and he sounded so excited because it is a new beginning.
It is.
For him. And all right, so again, just real quick advice. If you're going through divorce, let the raw emotion, let the dust settle before you start making significant financial decisions, because you can be compelled to make some pretty bad decisions when you're basing it purely on emotion. So,
yeah, and I would say financially, with an advisor or with somebody you trust, I would say after you let the dust settle a little bit, go ahead and sit down as soon as possible. Talk about your goals. Reassess your goals, your financial goals with just you or whoever's remaining in your party.
Absolutely.
Get clear.
Yeah. Yep, get clear. All right, Joe, let's talk a little bit about graduation here.
All right, graduation. This in my experience, Ben, this is probably the most exciting new beginning that I've witnessed because it's regardless of what age you are when you graduate, it tends to feel like your whole life is ahead of you. And in many ways it is. This is a very, very exciting beginning. Now, I think the challenge with this new beginning is most students, pharmacy students, go from making negative money per year to 6 figures. And so talking about the emotion on this side, we have the emotion of excitement and pleasure and being overwhelmed. And so we also see that, we can make not the best financial decisions right out of the gate sometimes too.
Yeah, Joe. And you go from being this poor, lowly pharmacy student to having the ability to really almost buy what you want to buy.
Yeah.
Anything that you want. And again, this is a really important waypoint because you need to truly assess what's important to you.
And this is something that you anticipate, it's coming. You may not feel like it if you're a P1 or P2, but at some point it's coming. And I think if you can plan financially before the actual day comes, before that first paycheck, that's the best way to take advantage of that new beginning.
Yeah, Joe. And I've met so many young people who, by their choices, by not sitting down, recognizing that this is a critical waypoint in their life. Mm-hmm. It's exciting, but it's one of the most critical as well. I've talked to so many young people who have eliminated future opportunities by the choices they make when they're right out of school.
Absolutely.
And that to me it's heartbreaking, because I always say if I miss an opportunity because I choose not to take it, I can sleep at night. I had this conversation with a pharmacy owner today. If there's an opportunity comes my way and I haven't prepared myself and I hadn't made the decisions that's going to allow me to take advantage of that opportunity, and I miss it because I can't do it, it will eat me alive, Joe.
Yes.
And again, what we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen, on this podcast is you have to understand that the decisions you make right out of college will impact you 5, 8, 10 years down the road.
Yeah. Now, I will say this, in my experience, because I've worked with a lot of recent grads over the years, there tends to be kind of this period right after graduation. Maybe it's 1 year, maybe it's even 2 years, where that excitement, that overwhelmness, maybe they buy a house, maybe they buy a car, maybe they get married. And that's a significant waypoint. But I think a lot of people, even if they don't make the best decisions right out of the gate, after that 1 year, maybe after that kind of honeymoon period, if you will, kind of phases out, then you reach the point where you say, okay, now I'm ready to get serious about my financial future. And I see that there's a second waypoint afterwards. And if you feel like you've missed the first one, take the next one. You can always change.
Absolutely. No doubt. It's never too soon or too late to do this.
No, time is always now.
You can, Joe, I call that you can force a waypoint.
True.
I'm going to force it. I'm going to stop what I'm doing now. I'm not happy with what I'm getting, and I'm going to change course right now.
Yeah, that's proactive, being proactive versus reactive.
Exactly. Again, that's one of those unanticipated waypoints. You control your own destiny out there. You can control your own destiny and make better decisions moving forward. You just got to make that call. All right, Joe, the last one. Let's talk a little bit about life after pharmacy. This is one of my most favorite waypoints because I have clients who send me pictures of them traveling with their grandkids and living this life they've always wanted to do. I've got a good client of mine. He sends me a selfie right before he's going turkey hunting. And he's like, Ben, I wouldn't have been able to get here if it weren't for you guys. Yeah. And, we're so very thankful we've had the opportunity to serve in that capacity, Joe. But when you think of life after pharmacy, I mean, what's something that somebody really needs to think about before they make that plunge?
Well, I'll tell you what, a personal story. My dad, he's not a pharmacist, but he's been working. He'll be 65 next year, and he has set with his company. He has set a date of January 1st next year, 2019. And I tell you what, Ben, he's looking so forward to it, but he's also scared. And what I mean by that is he doesn't know exactly what he's going to do with his time. And so I think life after pharmacy, it's not just financially, but it's also quality. What are you going to do with your time? How are you going to, be happy every moment or every day? And are you going to give back? Are you going to travel? I think kind of like the student, before you graduate, thinking about it ahead of time, I think life after pharmacy, you got to really think about it before you get there.
Yeah. And to add on that too, I've heard stories about people that come back into the home and they retire, and husbands and wives really kind of have to learn how to coexist with each other again. Yeah. It's almost like dating your spouse again. It
is. Hey, that's a new beginning in and of itself. Maybe you fall in love again.
That to me is the exciting part. Yeah. You get to come back in. And so what I encourage you to do is, a year, 6 months to a year out, but when you're thinking of moving into life after pharmacy, start the process of relearning your spouse. Start date nights again. Mm-hmm. Do those types of things if you haven't done it in a while. Start that process of learning how to, basically coexist. It's amazing to think about that we spend sometimes during our working years more times with our coworkers than we do with our spouse.
Yeah.
That to me, I don't know if I'm happy about that, Joe, or not. But
it depends on the coworkers, I think.
Yeah, you're right. If it's Joe, then man, I'd rather spend time with Samantha.
Oh yeah.
All right, buddy. I love you, Joe. I love you. Yeah. So, all right. So those are 3 significant waypoints in your life that potentially going to be facing. You could be facing right now. Yeah. And my thought there, Joe, is they all have a couple things in common. It's a time for a new beginning. You can get a fresh start. They can be positive. You can make them positive. You can make them negative.
Yes.
The waypoint, I always say, is neutral.
Yes.
Your mindset and how you approach that waypoint will determine whether you have a positive outcome or a negative outcome. And I think that's the key to this, Joe. We're at our time here, brother. Anything else you want to add to this conversation?
I'll just say one thing. I think when it comes to challenges in life, especially financially, I think most of our listeners understand this, but we may forget. When we face a challenge, I think it's important to take a step back and realize that the way life is set up, in my opinion, no challenge comes without an opportunity tied to it. And so if you face a waypoint that you weren't expecting or wasn't quite what you thought it was going to be, look for the opportunity. Look for that true new beginning, that new perspective that you can really take with you and be happy.
Absolutely. I don't think you can get any better advice than that, ladies and gentlemen. Joe, how does somebody get in touch with you, my man?
You can email me at joe@pharmacistfinancial.com, or you can shoot me a text, 512-294-7046. And what about you, Ben?
Ben at waypointus.com. Actually use the Ben at waypointrx.com. Joe, we finally got our new email address.
Awesome.
And or shoot me a text, 843-810-3983. You can always call our office too. We have a dedicated team of advisors looking to serve you guys out there. And Joe, does it matter who you are? Does it matter if you're a tech, pharmacist, a pharmacy owner? Does it matter who you are, who's listening to this, if you call us or not?
The only thing that matters to me is your attitude. Are you wanting to make significant changes, improvements in your financial life?
There you go, brother. I can't get better said than that. Ladies and gentlemen, that's why Joe Castleman's on our team. So thank you so much, Joe. Thank you for your time as always, brother.
Thanks
to everybody out there listening. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Interested in learning more about maximizing your income and living a financially free lifestyle? Contact the Income Outcomes Show today to learn more about your financial possibilities and best practices in managing your money to create opportunities for lasting wealth. Go to pharmacypodcast.com under the contact section and send us a message, and we'll get back to you within 24 hours. Thanks for listening to the Income Outcomes Show, a podcast publication part of the Pharmacy Podcast Network.